Say no to but. For the love of God, say no to but. Stop saying it. Eliminate it from your vocabulary. So what is but? Well, but is the word that most people say right before they give you an excuse. But it's not saying it to other people that matters, it's when you say it to yourself. So we say but, and then our excuse, because we're trying to justify to ourselves why we're not as awesome as we can be, why our life is not what we want it to be, why we can't do the things we really want. It's like, but, and then fill in the blank. So I'm going to fill in the blank with some of the most commonly said buts, and I'm going to encourage you to completely remove it from your vocabulary. And in order to do that, what you need to do is become aware and catch yourself the next time you say but. That should be a clue to you that you're about to give yourself an excuse. Now, so ask yourself, do you want to have an awesome life or not? Because if you want an awesome life, you have to stop saying but. So think about this one. So have you heard yourself say this? But it's too hard. Well, is it really too hard? Because if it's something new, have you ever done it? So would you know if it's too hard? Think about it. Is it really that hard? And if it is, maybe you should do some research. Maybe you should practice. Maybe you could find a way to do it. I don't think it's that hard. I think that we just say that because if it's too hard, then we have an excuse not to do it, right? So here's another one. But it's too risky. Is it really too risky? I mean, I love the expression that there's no such thing as like a risky investment. There's only risky investors. So that applies to everything in life. If what you're doing sounds risky, maybe it's because you're the one who's risky. Because if you are prepared and you've done your research and you've learned what you need to learn and you have a plan, it's probably not risky. So if you find yourself thinking about the fact that it's risky, then you need to take control and you need to control yourself so that you're doing things that aren't risky. So if you're telling yourself, well, it's too risky, again, it's a really great excuse not to do something. And if you don't do it, it means you can't fail. So if you're saying it's too risky, it's probably that you're just afraid of failure. Here's another one. But it'll take too long. It's like, well, what does that even mean? What is time anyway? I mean, sometimes we say, oh, time flew by. And then other times oh, time dragged on. So really, when you think about it, time is really more of an emotion. So if you're feeling like it's going to take too long, then really it's an emotion that you're feeling. It has nothing to do with how much time it is. So for instance, I met somebody, she said she wanted to go back to school. And she was about, 40 years old. She said, I want to go back to school, but it's going to take too long. And I said, well, how long is it going to take? She says, 5 years. It's like, all right, well, how old are you? She's like, 40. Like, how old are you going to be in 5 years? 45. And how old are you going to be in 5 years with a degree? Same age. Time's going to pass anyway. So is it really going to take too long? I don't think that has anything to do with it. So really, think about it. Ask yourself, if you feel like you're resisting something because it takes too long, what's your real reason for resisting it? Because I don't think it's time. Here's another one. But it costs too much. Well, not necessarily, because people will pay for things that are important to them. They will find a way. If people find a way to spend $4 on a cup of Starbucks and they go almost every day and they're spending, $600, $1,200 a year at Starbucks, but then they say, well, it costs too much to go on this cruise that I want. Well, if they hadn't drank Starbucks, they could go on the cruise. Or it costs too much to get this new certification that I want so that I can better myself, or go to this workshop so I can better myself. Oh, but I can't because it costs too much. But no, it doesn't. You just have to rearrange your priorities. It doesn't matter who you are. There's something you're spending money on that probably isn't worth it. So if you really want something, you'll find a way. So, but it costs too much, just doesn't cut it. Here's another one. But I shouldn't do it. Now, this one is like the worst one ever because shouldn't is one of those other words that you should eliminate from your vocabulary. So anytime you hear yourself say, but I shouldn't, then what it should trigger in your mind is say, all right, well, if I'm saying I shouldn't, it's not my own belief that's behind it, it's somebody else's. So I'm hearing like my mom in my head, or I'm hearing society in my head, or my teachers, or my boyfriend, or whoever it is saying, well, you shouldn't do that. So when you hear yourself say shouldn't in your mind as an excuse not to do something, then really think, is this my belief or someone else's? And if it's someone else's, get it out of your mind. Here's another one. But it's too overwhelming. Again, it's really not that overwhelming. The reason why you're overwhelmed is because you're doing one of two things. Either you're trying to bite off way more than you could chew, like if you eat something like a cheeseburger, you can't swallow it in one bite. You have to take one bite at a time. So a lot of times it's like, instead of looking at what you can do right now, which is take one bite, you tend to look at the whole thing and it's like, oh my God, that's so overwhelming. So you need to break it down into chunks. And if you chunk it down, it makes it not be overwhelming. So again, you don't have an excuse, you just need a different strategy. So on the flip side of that, sometimes you're looking at too much detail. For instance, if you say, well, I really want to go to the gym, but it's overwhelming. But of course it's overwhelming, because what happens is it's like, I have to spend 5 extra minutes packing in the morning, which means I have to wake up earlier. And then if I'm going to go on my way back from work, then I have to bring my stuff in with me. And then I hate changing in the changing rooms. And then everything I have to touch is all sweaty and gross. And I feel uncomfortable in my workout clothes. And then I have to, if I'm going to go out after, I have to like shower again. And then it messes with my hair and I have to do my makeup again. I mean, you could go on and on and on. Of course it seems overwhelming because you're thinking about all these little negative things instead of focusing on the fact that you're going to feel empowered, you're going to feel energized, you're going to feel better about yourself, you're going to feel more comfortable in your clothes. It's a matter of focus. If you're overwhelmed, you need to change your focus. And the last one, the most pervasive one, the most irritating one is, but I just don't have the time in my schedule. No time. So again, time is just an emotion. And just like what I was talking about with the money, is people make time for the things that are important to them. So you can't tell yourself or anybody else that you don't have time. That is not true. I'm sure there are things that you do, like play Candy Crush, check Facebook 100 times a day, watch TV, any of those things that are unnecessary that you could eliminate to make time for what you want, especially if what you want is something that's going to better you. So again, take notice of this word but. Catch yourself every time you say it and help yourself stop these limiting beliefs and these excuses, because if you take the word but out of your vocabulary, your life is going to be a lot more awesome.